we have to talk about the problems with the Spiritforge run that I discovered and confirmed with other members of the community. They are too big to ignore, but I would like to preface this, that this video is not coming from a place of malice. I love the game, I am gonna play it for the next years to come, and I want the best for the game. But the problem with the printing is too much to ignore and we have to address it. But first, let's talk about the positives, because there are some. The cards are accessible. In Europe, we can buy boxes everywhere and you can buy singles everywhere, and they're in a very accessible price as well. Mostly also is because of the Chinese cards being accessible, so that dragged down the prices. But essentially, you can buy Ezreal's Prodigies for like 40 euros and Spinning Axes for 50 euros. Everything else, like rares, are for like 2 euros, and most of the epics you can buy between 5 to 15, which is, I would say, a great point for players, not the best point for collectors. But overall, the prices are way lower and there should be zero complaints about how expensive the cards are in Spiritforge expansion, which was, by the way, the main reason why people are complaining about Origins, right? That the cards were too expensive. Second thing, we have no more jagged edges. The cuts are clear, there's no problem with any, at least in my boxes and the cards that I have seen from other players, there were absolutely zero jagged edges, everything was cut clean. But also what's funny, in the Chinese cards that I have, there's actually some jagged edges in the Chinese print. Another important thing is that the foils are not really curling as much as they've been curling in Origins. I legit left for a few days open foils with no protection, and they essentially almost didn't bend. They just bent like, you know, it's like this would bend like this in any card game. So this is, I feel like the main issue of the pringling was somehow addressed, and they are not bending as much as they had been in the Origins. And I feel like with the Chinese cards, that's also pretty fixed. I mean, not fixed, you can never fix this, but the Chinese cards that I have are a little bit pringled, but not as much as the Origins printing. But now we're gonna have to address the really big problem, which is collation issues in the boxes. And that's something that I have PTSD from, because when I was playing Star Wars Unlimited in the first and the second and in the third expansion, from what I remember, they had very similar problems, and I'm gonna show you context for that as well. But TLDR is, this is a photo of 3 different boxes that my friend in Warsaw bought from 3 different shops, so they are not even from the same like case or anything, right? So you can see box 1, box 2 and box 3 over here, they are almost identical. Not only identical in normal epics, but also almost identical in overnumbered alt art versions, right? Like here we have the Sevier in each of the box, we have like also the 2 other Seviers over here, and the other difference is just like there's one Spinning Axe in the first box and there's a Draven alt art in the third box, but they even have both Ari overnumbered. Like 2 out of 3 boxes have exactly the same overnumbered Ari. Like I was conversing with my friends in other cities. In my own city, I was comparing my own boxes, and unfortunately this is happening a lot. This is another box that was opened in our local Discord, where you can see the hits and then you can compare it to the box that I opened, and they are literally the same. The only difference here is that I didn't get a Spellsonger at all, while the person here got it, and I have different alt runes. But everything else is exactly the same. I have an overnumbered alt art Lucian, I have the Fiora alt art, I have the Yone overnumbered, right? And then we can see here, this is exactly the same in this booster box opened completely in a different city. I am fully aware that printings are made in factories and there's never really true randomness when it comes to how the boosters are being packed, what is in those boosters, and they are seeded to some degree in every single card game. But this, what we are seeing right now in Spiritforge and what I have seen in Star Wars Unlimited, was to a such degree that you cannot really ignore it, and it is too much to actually have a fair experience for the clients, but also for everyone involved who is currently playing and collecting the game. And I think it's important to raise this problem right now, because it's vital and imperative, in my opinion, to fix this for the future expansions, because they're always printed ahead of time. Most likely expansion 3 is already shipped to warehouses, so it's not fixable, and maybe it will have the same issue. Hopefully not, but we have to raise it to make sure that if there are problems in the next one, they maybe will not happen in the 4th expansion, for example. And if you're wondering why is this such a big deal for me, it's because in Star Wars Unlimited, people are able to recognize the pattern of a box while opening, like for example, 4 boosters, and then realize is it worth to open this booster box with the next boosters, or just gonna sell the loose boosters and open a different box? And people were actually doing that, and for quite some time people were very afraid of buying loose boosters because they could have been scouted out of what's inside. To give you context how it worked in Star Wars Unlimited, here you have contents of 3, 7, 12 booster boxes when it comes to the legend cards. Legends in Star Wars Unlimited are essentially the epics in Riftbound, and in the first 3 expansions, if I remember correctly, you had around 3 to 4 legends per booster box. Now those are the normal versions, those are not like foils, those are not like full art, which were also being printed out, and those are the basic version of the card, which is very important because only those could be tracked. The alt art versions could not be tracked. You couldn't track which full art version, which foil version you will have in the box, but all the normal legendaries could have been tracked. And as you can see here, you had essentially sets of legends that were almost the same. You have Boba, Skywalker, and a command. Boba, Skywalker, command. Boba, Skywalker, command. Then you have here Vader. I think that's never mind, what is this? I can remember. I think there's Mace Windu, and then we have Vigilance, and you have the same set over here on the left. And essentially how it worked is there was a cycle that you can see here in front of me. So here in front of you, you have a cycle of how the legends were printed, which means that, for example, if I open a booster and it's Vigilance, and now I can realize, okay, what am I gonna get next? Because they are printed next to each other. So the next in this box, we're gonna get 2 or 3 legends, which means that I can get, like, for example, Millennium Falcon and Darth Vader. Or instead of having Millennium Falcon, maybe the print is gonna go left and I'm gonna get Vigilance, Darth Vader, and Mace Windu. Or I'm gonna get it to the right and I'm gonna get Vigilance, Millennium Falcon, and Aggression. So people then knowing which box did I get because of the one legend, they were able to make a guesstimate of, do I want to open the booster box or not? And for example, if someone was opening a Change of Heart, he most likely just didn't want to open the rest of the box because the legends back then in that metagame were not making a lot of sense to get like a Home 1 and a Super Laser Blast or Force Lightning and Command. So people were just selling those boosters for a pretty high price because this expansion, the first expansion of Star Wars Unlimited, had really big problems with accessibility and the packs were expensive. And that was a big problem in also second expansion and third expansion. Now, the thing is, as I mentioned, you couldn't track alt art and you couldn't track foils and so on. So in a box, potentially, you still had a chance to have some hits, but the standard legends could have been easily recognizable. Now, when you think about that, and you compare it to Spiritforge, you can see a clear problem. Not only you can track the normal epics, but also you can track the alt arts to some degree with certainty. And that makes it a big problem, because once you realize that, remember, there's also more epics in boxes, so you can get a clear indication of which pattern you're getting a little bit earlier. What is the pattern? I have no idea, and I'm not gonna dig through that, but I can guarantee you that people are already scouting that, because I am definitely not the first person to realize that, and this is already a topic in our local Polish community, but I can guarantee you that the big like sellers are already aware of this, and they're already tracking which patterns are working how. This exact, like, Star Wars Unlimited is a way smaller game, and they cracked it in like a week or 2. So this is gonna be already cracked very early, and unfortunately, because of that, it's gonna be very risky to buy any loose boosters from unknown sources, but also from LGSs. And I know this sounds kind of bad, but not every LGS is fair and square, so, or just an employee of an LGS. So I would be worried about buying a booster from anyone. I would just only resort to buying booster boxes. And I'm also certain that for Riot Games, it's incredibly important to have a great experience opening booster boxes, because that's one of the biggest things that I love about card games, and I love about Spiritforge and Origins. I loved opening booster packs, and it's clearly not as fun anymore when you kinda know what you're gonna be getting, because there are patterns. But unfortunately, I also have to address the other problems that we have with the Spiritforge print, and they are pretty significant as well. I hate doing this, I really do. I really hate doing this. I really hate talking about problems, but I have to talk about them because they are also very significant. But first, some positives. The English version, the alt arts, for example, are beautiful and are much nicer than the Chinese version. Here I have the Rek'Sai in alt art in Chinese and English. The foiling is more robust on the English one, even though they have exactly the same pattern of the foiling. The English foiling is better. It's just more textured. You can feel it under your finger a little bit more, and it just looks more shiny. And I know it's very hard to show it on a camera, but you would see it IRL. Now, another thing, and that's clearly visible here on camera, the colors on the English ones are better than in the Chinese version. The alt arts in the English one are really perfectly printed, at least the ones that I've seen. All of the art arts that I have are really beautiful. The colors are super saturated, like the red on here and red on here. Like, it looks much better. The Chinese print is still very good, but you can see, like, for example, the jagged edges over here on the Chinese version, while the English one is quite literally perfect. But when it comes to normal printings of epics and rares, unfortunately the English version has a lot of problems. First and foremost, the colors of the normal epics are really gray. Like, they do not have a true black, and that's a problem. Like, for example, here the Ancient Henge has almost no black at all in the deepest shadows, which is very visible when you compare it to an actual artwork. You have the same problem with other cards that just are very flat because of that and grayed out. They look like they kind of laid out on the sun, if you know what I mean. And even the normal ones, I didn't take the spinning axe with me, but I do have a Chinese version of spinning axes, and I compared it, and the Chinese version actually have better colors on the normal epics, but not on the alt art that I showed you before, right? So that's another problem. Then we also have on rares, but not on epics, problem with centering. As you can see here, this Azir kinda wants to go away from my card. Maybe that's lore, you know, like he is actually moving as an action, so maybe he just tries to go out of this side of this card. Anyway, the centering is not really that big of an issue, I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm actually the opinion that the more miscentered card we have, then the more valuable the actual perfectly centered cards are, you know, because otherwise, if every card is perfect, then what's the point? But I know. Anyway, the next issue is something that I have a suspicion for, and I'm not truly convinced I'm right, so take this with a grain of salt. But from what I've seen, how many are available, the own signatures are being overprinted, or they're actually being printed in a normal number, which is the problem. So hear me out here. Each of these signature from On is unique. So he's the only character in the entire game that, instead of just having one signature that you would like to probably play in 3 copies, he has one copy of 3 different cards. But when it comes to the printings, it seems that every single one of those signatures was being printed like it's a card that you can have 3 times in your deck. So there's actually, think about this as 3 different signatures being printed for 3 different characters. And even though you only need one, the actual print run of those 3 cards is gonna be 3 times higher, which creates a lot of problems, because now they are not as valuable, because not only Ornn is a niche character that not many people now at least want to play, but also if you really badly need a signature, you only need 1 piece and you don't need 3 of those, right? So instead of having 9, you just need 3, and that creates a problem because now those cards are not worth almost anything, while also the print run of other epics goes down because those are taking over the chances of getting other epics that you would have in your own booster box. So again, I am not certain that I am right, but when I was comparing the number of available epics on the open market, it seemed like those are available in a normal number, just like any other signature, and that it means that they were not altered when it comes to the actual numbers of printings. And the last thing that I'm just gonna address is those guys. Look, this is what I opened. I opened 4 booster boxes from Spiritforge, and I got 24 legends. Now, actually even more. I forgot that I put them aside. I think like 26. Anyway, as you can clearly count, that's pretty massive. That's like 13 to 14 boosters out of 96 that had nothing else than legends. now, but I also have seen, and take this as anecdotal evidence because I am not certain if I can trust those people, but many people were reporting to me that they were opening as much as 15 legends from one booster box. And unfortunately, legends, you know, they are needed to play, but not in that kind of amount, because there's gonna be just too many of them and they are just basically worth nothing because of that. And I understand that there's limited format and they might be needed into drafting and so on, and in sealed pools, but unfortunately I have a very bad feeling to open, specifically also, and I didn't even address that because it's already fixed, like the problems with the singular boosters, right, that have like a singular rare, they can still be a legend. So you open a booster pack that has one rare and it's gonna be a legend. That's a really feels bad moment. And I know I'm not gonna address it because it's already fixed for the third expansion. At least that's what Riot communicated with us before, and I'm very happy to hear that. It wasn't fixed in Spiritforge yet, but we knew that. So the expectations are different here, right? But overall, I have a suspicion, and again, this is me making shit up. I am not certain if my suspicion is correct, just like with the own signatures. This is my gut feeling and some like anecdotal evidence. I think that the legends are more common in this expansion because they're taking let's say a portion of the rare printings, because there's less rares in Spiritforge than it was in Origins. So even though we have the same amount of slots, the actual number of rares is smaller and the printings of the auto rares are not higher, relatively speaking, to the other Origins, and somehow the legends are taking that space. This is me making it up. I have no clue if this is correct. This is just my assumption and a gut feeling what could have happened. So don't repeat this as a fact, okay? Now, the problem is, even if, like, it doesn't matter if that's true or not. What I would like to raise as a potential thing is that we should probably move those legends to an uncommon slot or a common slot, or just the foil slot that can be a common uncommon. And I think it's important because first and foremost, we don't need that many of them. You can lower down the quantity of printings as well, because you would like to have more clients who are actually buying boosters and are more happy with the outcome, what they can get in it. And I have even heard, again, anecdotal evidence, that there were boosters with 2 legends inside of them, which yeah, I'm not sure even what how that can happen. But overall, I would like those legends to become maybe even normal cards without any foils as tokens. Maybe you will print, like, you know, in the back here a buff or a recruit or whatever, right? And then you have a legend and a token, and it takes that slot instead. Sometimes you're just gonna have like a 2-sided legend instead of a token. But the point is, I feel like it would be good for the game if those legends would not be taking a slot in the booster pack, specifically, you know, the rare slot, which people are hunting for. And also, this is my own experience. When I was playing in a pre-Rift event, I opened 5 booster packs and I have 1 pre-kit, right, which was in my case a Jax. And then I opened the 5 booster packs and I had 1 pack that only had 1 rare and 3 packs that had a legend. So I ended up essentially with only having 5 rares. Sorry, out of 5 booster packs, I essentially had 5 rares that I could have played with, which is a feels bad moment, specifically when building a deck for sealed, and rares are kind of bombs that you would be looking forward to if you would like to play, right? So, and it's possible to play without legend. Would I even bother sometimes with some of the legends in a draft limited format? Anyway, again, I would like to reiterate all of this. What I said in this video comes from a place of love. I really love the game and I wish the absolute best for it. And I think those problems are not with the game itself, which is great, right? Because that has nothing to do with the game itself. It's just the collectible aspect of it and the business model for Riot as well. So there's a big incentive for Riot to fix this, because this will affect their sales most likely in the near future. So hopefully don't treat this negatively. I just think it's incredibly important to talk about and fix in the future, because we have seen examples of other card games that had very similar or exactly the same issues, like in the case of Star Wars Unlimited, that were affecting the game's health and overall business side. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share with a friend, and maybe if you would like to watch more content of mine, subscribe. Anyway, one more thing. I always do this. I mean, not always, but I mostly do this. Last question for you. If you would have to eat one kind of food till the end of your days, what would you choose? Like, would you eat a pizza every day for the end of your life? Will you eat a burger? Will you eat, I don't know, bulgogi? Let me know in the comment. Bye-bye.